Hey, Doodah Dave here, vinyl lovers. We got another review coming at you. And yes, it's the debut album from the Jimi Hendrix Experience, 1967. Are You Experienced on Reprise Records. This is an OG pressing, my original, little worn for wear, well loved as they say. And this is a beauty. I'm going to show you on Reprise, 1967. This is the United States pressing, and I'll tell you about the British pressing. Isn't that a beautiful label? Gorgeous, right? With the Reprise Steamboat. Everybody knows Reprise was Frank Sinatra's label, right? They took a chance. I was reading, they signed Jimi. He was on Track Records originally. I'll get into a little bit of his history in a minute, but and then after the success of Monterey Pop that Jimi was recommended by Paul McCartney for in 1967, Reprise signed him in the U.S. So we start off, I love the way this reads here. You can see this is Jimi on guitars, of course. Noel Redding on over here on bass guitar. He was actually a guitarist, learned to play bass for the Experience, and the great Mitch Mitchell on drums. So, Are You Experienced? The one everyone's been talking about, the excitement of the Jimi Hendrix Experience. So, Purple Haze starts it off. This is a debut album from Jimi. There is not a bad song on here. We've got that fantastic fisheye lens. That was Jimi's own wardrobe. The other two had to go shopping for theirs. And just an incredible fisheye lens picture there. By Carl Ferris. Purple Haze, Manic Depression, Hey Joe, Love or Confusion, May This Be Love, I Don't Live Today, first side, second side, Wind Cries Mary, Fire, Third Stone from the Sun, which was about aliens coming down to Earth, killing everybody and putting the Earth in charge of chickens, supposedly. Foxey Lady, and Are You Experienced? Jimi was playing with Jimmy James and the Blue Flames. He was a vet that had paratrooper from Seattle, Washington. Many people probably know this story. He played originally with the Isley Brothers, then went with B.B. King and a bunch of blues guys. Then he was with Ike and Tina and ended up with Little Richard. So he cut his teeth on what they call the Chitlin circuit, which was the black in the South circuit that stars in the 60s were playing. And he developed a lot of his showmanship as well as his chops, as well as his R&B, soul. But this album really brought it all together. By the way, all the songs on here, everyone I mentioned except for Hey Joe, was written by him. They're all originals. What else do I want to say about this album, Are You Experienced? So there was an English version, and that included Red House. This is the CD. I have the 1997 CD that the Hendrix family put out. And it's got all the original stuff, plus Stone Free, 51st Anniversary, Highway Child, Can You See Me, Remember, and The Great Red House, which was one of the only blues songs that Jimi put out. Same folks on there. We got the cover. Jimi was left-handed, so he played his Strat upside down. You can maybe see it in that picture there. You notice all the switches and stuff are on the top, where they'd usually be on the bottom. And the tuning pegs, rather than being on the top, are on the bottom. Jeff Beck, who passed away. Actually, on this one, he's got the tuning pegs on the bottom, right? Jeff Beck, who passed away, had a left-handed Strat that he liked to play, made for himself, even though he was right-handed. Go figure, right? Yeah, just great music. So that's the CD. I wanted to show you that. Oh, here's a nice colored picture of the experience there. They also played Woodstock in '69, one of his most famous, hence my hat, one of their most famous performances. He did Purple Haze, and he did the famous Star Spangled Banner. This is a book of photographs that I got. A friend of mine at work gave me this, and it's mostly black and white. It was recorded, or they were shot the same year that the album was recorded in 1967. Oh, I wanted to mention is the great picture of Jimi. Yeah. Eddie Kramer was the engineer on this album. Just some really great pictures. And I'll give you a couple more. The Stones had shot in this studio. It's a very famous studio called Mason's Yard in London. Chaz Chandler saw Jimmy James and the Blue Flames down at the Cafe Wah down at the Village, where he got his own gig with his own band, and said, I gotta sign these guys, and brought them to England. And as they say, the rest is history. Here's the Amboy Dukes, another little sideline. And here's a great picture of the Yardbirds. The two guitar players on the end is Jimmy Page here and Jeff Beck with the Yardbirds. Pretty cool, right? And then they shot the Stones as well. Yeah, so these are some pretty cool photos. One more, and then I'll give the photos a rest. The experience. So Jimmy's style is unduplicated. I mean, Rolling Stone has him listed as #1 of greatest rock guitarists of all time. His use of feedback, wah-wah, overdub, rock, soul, blues, psychedelic, gospel, I would say, jazz, improvisation, as he called it, electric church. Jimmy was in his own category. And for me, I think his live albums, maybe because of the limitations in the late 60s of live recordings, for the most part, stand out. And this is probably the pinnacle. I love Axis Bold as Love. That's probably my favorite Jimmy album. I just have I love Little Wing, and I just have a lot of affection for that album. But as an album of strong songs, and right out of the gate, and a debut album, an eponymously labeled debut album. To give you an idea, there were about 10 reviews on Wikipedia. They were all 5 stars. 5 out of 5 stars, 10 out of 10 stars. One guy, I think, gave him an A-. So this is pretty near. And it would have been the top of the charts, except that a little band by the name of the Beatles that did a little album called Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band knocked them off #1. What else? I'll show you the sleeve. There's a nice sleeve for this as well. On Echo Atlantic. Oh, this is actually the Atlantic sleeve, right? This isn't the Reprise sleeve. But same era. Cream is on here. Sonny and Cher. Tim Hardin. A lot of great people on here. King Curtis. I would say also too in 1967 that you had a couple of English guys with a black guitarist out front. That was revolutionary. Most of the groups in the 60s, if not all, I can't think of. 69, the Allman Brothers came out and they had JMO, so they were, had white and black people in it. But it was still, even in the music business, even in the arts, it was very segregated. Think, Porgy and Bess and all that stuff. We hadn't really broken out of that at that point. It was Martin Luther King, of course, passed away in 1968, but Jimmy was Jimi was Jimi. Jimi was amazing. He broke down more barriers than I can think about. He transcended and innovated. I mean, I would put him up there with Coltrane, with Miles Davis, Jerry Garcia, Duane Allman, Charlie Parker, Ella Fitzgerald, Ray Charles, Aretha Franklin. The kind of people that just took music and made it their own, made their own music, transcended music. He was a great composer. This isn't on this album, but we could talk about All on the Watchtower. If you listen to the original of that by Bob Dylan on John Wesley Harding, as many have, it's a little acoustic, folky song that he stuck on that very short, and Hendrix made it into a hard rock masterpiece. Jimi just had that ability. One more quick story, which many people probably know. The night that Sgt. Pepper's was released, Paul and a couple of the other Beatles went to a club in England to see him play, and he had already learned Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band from the album and played it for them. So that was the brilliance of Jimi. And of course, the Star Spangled Banner, which became a tribute. He was a veteran himself, and the whole Vietnam War and the feelings about what was going on at that time, and the government and the opposition to the war, and the pain and suffering of so many, as well as the celebration. I guess he brings it all, soup to nuts, A to Z, alpha to omega, zenith to the apex, and back again, or nadir, I guess it is, highs and lows. So that's Jimi Hendrix, Are You Experienced, 1967, fantastic album. I'm sure many of you have it. Oh, they just released the UHQR with Analog Productions. Did that, and I believe Chad Kesem sold out on that. I think. I heard it was very, very excellent. I did not get it, but of albums, that's the type of album that I would like to get. So we'll move through some more Woodstock artists, and thank you, vinyl community. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Doodad Dave coming at you, and we'll be with you again next week with another review. Thanks so much.